vai usar a palavra a assessora do Gabinete do Primeiro-Ministro para os Assuntos Europeus, representante da República de Irlanda, Miss Ciara Delaney.
Thank you very much. We've heard Portuguese and Spanish and French and a little bit of Ocean as well. So if you'll allow me just to say a few words in our own language. Thank you so much for the very warm welcome we have been given here today. I see Laurie smiling at me there for a little bit of a Celtic language. Thanks, Laurie. It's thanks in particular to Minister Christas and to the Secretary of State and his team for bringing us here to Lisbon, almost to the day 2 years on since the launch of the strategy. I was lucky to be here 2 years ago. It was very misty, so thank you also for organising such a beautiful sunny day, which is wonderful to come to from Dublin. Some of you know me that I was in Brussels for the past 2.5 years, and I was Ireland's Marine Attaché in Brussels. And so I had the pleasure of working directly on the strategy and how it could be implemented and supported through a specific action plan. I have now returned to Dublin, and I'm working, I just want to clarify, I'm working in the Office of the Prime Minister, the Department of the Taoiseach, on EU policy coherence generally, which, let's face it, is quite a big task. So my portfolio includes cohesion funding, research, fisheries, climate change. Do these things sound familiar? And yes, of course, my continuing interest in the marine and maritime, and specifically the Atlantic strategy. And I think the maritime area is a great example of an area in which we need coherence, and we can be coherent, and that's why the Irish government takes a whole-of-government approach to marine matters, led by the Minister of the Marine, Simon Coveney, and I'm very pleased to be representing him here today, and involving many government ministries and supported by our Marine Institute. I'm happy also that Fernando mentioned the Spanish presidency, because this allows me, I thought it would be a bit bold to talk about the Irish presidency and keep going on about it, but now I feel more confident in doing so, so thank you, Fernando. Because we did give a strong push to the marine and maritime agenda during the Irish presidency, not least with the successful negotiation of the revised Common Fisheries Policy, in concluding very complicated negotiations on Horizon 2020, and of course agreeing an action plan for the Atlantic strategy, which was one of the key goals for the Irish presidency, and I was very pleased to play my small part. The plan was adopted by the Commission in May, as you've heard, and also as you've heard from Minister Christas and from President Barroso, endorsed by the European Council, and that is an important point. The European Council, the heads of state and government, have endorsed that action plan. And the goal of the strategy is to foster, promote and support blue growth and job creation through the sustainable development of the Atlantic's marine resources. Another key event during the Irish presidency was that we launched the first step in international cooperation under the strategy with the Galway launch of a transatlantic research alliance between the EU, Canada and the US. But I acknowledge the presence here today of representatives of other Atlantic states, and that Galway was a first step. There will be other steps in international cooperation, and that is very important. Our Taoiseach, our Prime Minister, was there in Galway with Commissioners Damanaki and Morrigan Quinn, as well as high-level representatives from the US and Canadian government. And the goal is to better understand the Atlantic Ocean and promote sustainable management of its resources. We think that funding, which is always important for the Transatlantic Research Initiative, will largely come from the Horizon 2020 programme, which has been stressed so much here today. And I'll come back to that. But we also want to pay particular attention to fostering public understanding of how ocean science and observation address pressing issues for the citizen and for the environment, and the fragility of the marine environment, which Minister Christas did not forget to remind us of, which is very important. I thought I might I think the importance of today's conference and tomorrow is maintaining momentum, and that is extremely important. And while you are right, Laurie, to remind us of our homework, which is always a little bit of a negative thing, I think, when we think of homework. And you've given yourself a gold star for coherence within the Commission services, and it's true. It's very much a joint work between DG Mare, DG Research, DG Regio, and this is very important. We have to do our homework in the Member States and in the regions in finalising our partnership agreements and the operational programmes. And homework generally isn't easy. And I think previous speakers have touched on that. Ellie and Fernando have touched on that. I won't go into any further detail on that, except to say that we are trying to aim for a gold star rather than a must do better. But I thought it might be interesting just to talk about very briefly, I know people would like to have some coffee soon, but very briefly about two specific examples, perhaps, of how, while we are waiting for those partnership agreements and operational programmes to be concluded, two concrete examples, and concrete was used a lot, from Ireland, of how that momentum can be maintained. Next week, next Tuesday, next Wednesday, most importantly, the official launch of Horizon 2020 programme. But on Tuesday, we jumped the gun a little bit because we are lucky to have Commissioner Gagan Quinn come to Ireland to launch Ireland's national programme for Horizon 2020. And we will be building on what has already been a very successful round under the framework programme. It is a competitive programme. Excellence is the standard by which applications are judged, but we feel in Ireland that we can meet that standard of excellence. And under the last programme, we won awards of close to 600 million under the current EU research programme, 48 million euros of which was in the marine area, which actually made it the fourth highest sector under research funding in the Irish programme under EU funding. And next Tuesday, we will have a launch at which 3 small and medium-sized enterprises will be given a focus, one of which is in the marine area, that is Arklow Marine, and it is a company which is involved in the Lean Wind project, a project which has already won close to 10 million euros in European Commission funding and 15 million in total funding. I won't go into the details of the project. It concerns offshore wind farm developments and trying to make offshore wind competitive with traditional energy resources. The point is that a number of jobs are being created in Ireland to work on this project over the next 4 years. And so direct job creation is one of the goals that we all are striving for, and Laurie has quite rightly reminded us of that today. Because we believe that offshore wind energy can play a key role in stimulating growth and investment in Europe over the next decade, and we are very, very keen to increase Ireland's participation and profile in this growing sector, along with our EU and Atlantic partners. And my other example of how momentum is being maintained is on Monday. Monday just gone, we had the launch of the marketing plan for Tourism Ireland for the coming 2 years. And they featured most strongly the Wild Atlantic Way. This is a national project, but I think it's something that we can all learn from each other, from our national plans, particularly as Minister Christas spoke about the Portuguese national plan. And this is very much building on harnessing our ocean wealth, the Irish government's marine plan. The Wild Atlantic Way will be the longest dedicated coastal tourism route in the world, because we have a very curvy coast, thanks to that Wild Atlantic. So 2,500 kilometres stretching from Kinsale in County Cork, which is perhaps the gastronomic capital of Ireland, all the way around the west coast to the Inishowen Peninsula in Donegal, which, if you have ever visited, must be one of the wildest places in Europe. The Irish government, has given significant funding to the Wild Atlantic Way. It was announced in our budget for next year of an additional 8 million euros in funding. And we are very much targeting the core international markets of the United States and the EU to try and boost our visitor numbers, to encourage them to spend more, to stay longer, and to help create jobs in a very rural, very isolated part of Ireland. But job creation, growth, those are the goals and aims which we are all trying to follow. So I encourage you all to check out The Wild Atlantic Way on YouTube. It's quite something. Accompanied by some amazing music, as we heard earlier, which can only give us some joy and some excitement, and that's what we should focus on too, as well as the difficulties of our homework. I'm sure that we're going to hear a lot more in the next 2 days that will give us a lot of thought to work on. Thank you.